Deep in the dark regions of neutral space far from any star or home world, there's a long trade route used by many alien races every day, carrying food, metal, and technology from one side of the galaxy to the other, and for years this route has been safe and quiet with only small risks from space storms or the occasional pirate raid. Yet in the past few weeks something has changed, and changed in a way that makes every captain nervous. Cargo ships have begun to vanish without sending distress calls, without leaving wreckage, without even showing damage on long-range scans. One moment the ships are moving along their path, the next moment they are gone, and nothing is left behind. No debris, no escape pods, no energy trails. As if the ships have simply been erased from reality itself, the alien governments meet in great halls to speak of these events, and many blame pirates, claiming that perhaps a new group has found a weapon that destroys ships instantly, but others argue that even the most advanced pirates would leave some trace. Rumors begin to grow in the crowded markets of space stations, whispers of an enemy that cannot be seen. Merchants speak in low voices, saying that the attackers are invisible, that they pass through the void like ghosts and strike without warning. Some swear they have seen strange shapes in the darkness just before a ship is lost, shadows that seem to move against the stars, shapes that disappear when you try to look directly at them. For the great powers of the galaxy, this is a problem they cannot ignore, for the loss of trade means the loss of credits and resources, and so meetings are held between species that normally do not trust each other. Old rivalries are set aside, at least for the moment, but even then there is no agreement on what to do. Some leaders demand more patrols, others want to close the trade route entirely, but the fear of showing weakness stops them from acting too boldly. Among these powers, humans are still new to the stage. They have only been part of galactic politics for a short time, and many of the older species see them as young, impulsive, and untested. They are respected for their creativity and stubbornness, but not yet trusted with great responsibility. Still, when the disappearances continue, without the human representatives make an offer, they say they can help, they say they can investigate and find the truth, but most alien leaders laugh at the idea too. Them humans are still a small species from a single blue world far from the core. They believe humans cannot solve a problem that the great powers cannot solve themselves. Yet while the council debates and argues, a single human patrol ship moves quietly through space, ignoring the politics, and orders. The ship is small, a fast scout vessel with a crew of only 20, but it is armed with sharp minds and curious eyes. The captain, a woman named Mara Vance, has been following the trade route for days, keeping her ship in the shadows and scanning for anything unusual. She has read every report of the missing ship. She has spoken to every witness she can find, and she has a strange feeling that the answer is close. Her crew trust her instincts. They know she has served in dangerous missions before and always returned with the truth in her mind. The enemy is not a ghost, not magic, but something that can be found and understood if only one looks in the right way. And so the human scout ship drifts among the empty lanes where the disappearances happened, its sensors set to high sensitivity, its crew watching every flicker of light outside. Hours pass in quiet. Only the hum of the engines and the soft beeps of the scanner break the silence. Then a faint shimmer appears in the darkness ahead, too faint for the automated systems to recognize. It looks almost like heat rising from pavement on a hot day. Except this is the cold void, and there should be no shimmer. Here the crew lean forward in their seats, straining their eyes against the viewports. Mara narrows her gaze and orders the ship to slow. As the shimmer moves, it bends the light of distant stars around it, making them twist in strange ways. The alien reports had mentioned shadows moving and shapes disappearing. Perhaps this is what they saw, but the human eyes can follow the faint distortions and track them across the black sky. The crew records every second, every shift in the starfield. The scanners complain with confused error tones, unable to lock onto anything solid. Then, without warning, the shimmer turns. As if it has noticed them, it begins to grow larger and darker against the void. Is there something real and alive, something that has hunted ships for weeks without being seen? The human crew feel their hearts pound in their chests. Some grip their seats, others reach for weapon controls. But Mara keeps her voice calm. She orders the cameras to focus and the sensors to keep running. Every bit of data must be saved. The shape slows, as if studying them. Perhaps it is surprised, perhaps it is angry that these small humans have noticed it when no one else could. The crew hold their breath, waiting to see if it will attack. But instead the shimmer begins to drift away, slipping into the black, as if melting into the night sky again. It is almost gone when Mara makes her decision. She sends a short coded message to Human Command reporting that they have found something invisible to machines, but not to the naked eye. She marks the coordinates and tells her crew this is only the beginning. For the first time in weeks, there's a lead, and it belongs to humans. The Council may still laugh, the alien powers may still doubt, but Mara Vance knows what she saw, and she will not stop until the galaxy knows it too. Somewhere out there, the invisible hunters are moving from one target to the next, believing they are untouchable. But now, for the first time, they have been seen, and the hunt is about to change forever. Far from any star in a dark stretch of the galaxy, the Veilith move in silence, their sleek black ships gliding between planets like shadows in the night. For generations, they have been the perfect predators, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. Their technology bends light around them, hides their heat from sensors, and erases their energy trail from scans. To every other species, they are nothing more than a story told in whispers, yet the Veilith know the truth. They have hunted for centuries without failure, feeding on the fear of those who never even knew what struck them. In the halls of their command ships, the Veilith speak in a language of soft clicks and low hums, discussing the latest raids. They share details of the human patrol ship that saw something it should not have seen, though they dismiss it as chance or luck. No prey has ever truly detected them before. No prey has lived long enough to tell others. They believe that the human captain will soon vanish like all the others, and the galaxy will forget. Yet the humans are different. The Veilith do not understand why, for every other species relies on machines to see and measure the void, trusting computers to tell them what is real and what is not. But humans have strange eyes and stranger minds. They look longer. They notice small changes in the way the stars bend or the way shadows shift in the dark. They trust their instincts as much as their machines, and they refuse to believe something is impossible simply because others say it is. Mara Vance and her crew study the recordings of the shimmer they saw in the void. The images are faint, almost useless to the ship's scanners, but clear enough to human sight. The captain orders simulations of the movement speed and angle of the unknown shape. She has a plan forming in her mind, though she keeps it quiet from most of the crew for now. They will hunt the hunters, and to do that they must become bait. The human scout ship moves along the old trade route, carrying fake cargo containers filled with scrap metal to appear valuable to anyone watching. They keep their energy readings steady and open, as if unaware of danger. They broadcast trade signals that would be heard for light years by anyone listening, including the Veilith. At the same time, the crew works in silence, preparing hidden weapons, loading signal flares and high-energy particle bursts into special launch tubes. For 2 days, they drift in empty space, sometimes passing far from lonely asteroids, sometimes crossing paths with harmless merchant vessels. Nothing happens, and tension builds among the crew. Some begin to think the enemy will not take the bait. Others worry that if they do attack, it will be sudden and deadly. But Mara is patient. She knows predators strike when they believe their prey is unaware and safe. On the 3rd day, the shimmer returns, at first just a ripple across the stars on the edge of vision, then moving closer, bending light like water over stone. The automated sensors give no alarm. The ship's computers detect nothing, but the humans see it. The crew holds their breath as the shadow slides silently toward them like a great beast under the surface of a black ocean. Inside the invisible vessel, the Veilith watch the human ship. Their instruments show a simple cargo transport with slow reflexes, an easy target. They close the distance, ready to disable the engines and board the ship. Their weapons hum softly in preparation. The captain of the Veilith crew gives the silent order to strike, confident, as always, that no one knows they are there. Mara Vance speaks calmly into the comm, telling her gunners to hold until her mark. The shimmer is almost alongside. Now, its outline faint, but visible to those who know what to look for. Her eyes narrow as she counts down in her head. When the moment feels right, she gives the order. In an instant, the human ship fires its first special flare, a sphere of burning light that bursts across the void, flooding the area with particles that cling to any surface and reflect light. The Veilith cloak wavers, flickers, and fails, revealing a jagged black hull, like the carapace of some deep-sea predator. Alien eyes glare through narrow viewing slits as the galaxy sees them for the first time in living memory. Gasps and shouts fill the human ship, but Mara does not stop. She orders a wideband transmission, sending live footage to every friendly relay station. Within range, images of the once invisible Valith now burned into every screen across dozens of star systems. Inside their ship, the Valith panic. Their technology was perfect against machines, but useless against the naked human gaze and the simple brute force of light and particles. They try to power their cloak again, but the coating from the flare clings to their hull, making them glow against the void. Every move they make is visible, every turn watched by human eyes and recorded by human cameras. The Valith captain orders a retreat, engines roaring as they break away from the human vessel. But Mara is not about to let them escape. She orders pursuit. The scout ship's engines flare bright as they dive into the chase, weaving through drifting rock fields and narrow gaps. In shattered moons, the human crew works together like a single mind, each station feeding information to the next, each movement flowing without hesitation. The Valith fire back with plasma bolts that light up the void, but the human ship dances away from each shot, darting in unpredictable patterns. The chase grows longer, more dangerous. As they near a dense asteroid belt, debris spins wildly through the empty black, and the smallest mistake could tear a ship apart, but still neither side stops. Across the galaxy, alien leaders watch the broadcast, some in disbelief, some in fear. They see the predators they once thought untouchable now fleeing from the very species they dismissed as weak and inexperienced. The balance of power is shifting before their eyes, and they know it. The Valith ship pushes deeper into the asteroid belt, hoping to lose their pursuer among the moving stones. But the human vessel stays close, reading the path not with sensors, but with quick human judgment, weaving through openings only seconds before they close. The Valith captain realizes the danger too late as Mara drives them toward a dead end, where a massive asteroid blocks the way forward. With nowhere to run, the Valith slow their engines, their ship surrounded by rock and shadow, and the small human vessel hanging in the dark, just beyond weapon range. Both crews stare across the void, waiting to see who will make the next move. The galaxy is still watching, and a legend of human eyes has only begun. The human scout ship hung in the shadows of the asteroid belt, its hull darkened to blend with the drifting stones, engines on low power to mask their heat. Mara Vance stood at the command chair, her eyes never leaving the faint glow of the Valith ship pinned at the end of the dead corridor of rock. She knew they could not stay like this forever. The enemy would either try to fight their way out or call for help, and either choice could turn deadly in seconds. Her crew waited for orders, each one feeling the weight of the moment, but Mara's voice was calm, steady as she spoke to them. She told them this was their chance to learn the truth about the invisible threat, to catch it in a way no one could deny. The galaxy would see the hunters exposed for what they were, and that truth would be more valuable than destroying them outright. She ordered every camera and recorder to be ready. She wanted every angle of the next minutes captured and sent to human command, and to every listening post they could reach. The Valith ship made no move. At first it sat in the darkness, its strange, jagged hull coated with the residue from the human flare particles, glinting faintly like frost and starlight inside the alien vessel. The crew hissed in low tones, angry and confused. Never in their long history had prey cornered them. Never had they been forced into such a trap. They did not understand how the humans had seen them, and that lack of understanding felt like a crack in the armor of their pride. Mara decided the best way forward was not to rush in, but to make the move on her terms. She ordered the human ship to power up just enough to be noticed and to open a narrow communications channel. She spoke slowly, clearly, sending her voice directly to the alien vessel, telling them that she saw them, that her crew saw them, that the entire galaxy saw them. She told them there was no place to hide anymore, that every ship in the trade lanes would soon know their tricks. The Valith captain answered, only with silence, but she knew her words had reached him. Hours passed in tense stillness, the asteroids drifting slowly between the two ships. The human crew rotated in shifts, but no one could rest their eyes, kept returning to the shadow of the alien ship, half expecting it to vanish again, half fearing it might open fire without warning. Then Mara gave the order that shifted the balance. she told her crew to begin the bait run. The plan was simple in design, but dangerous in execution. They would appear to retreat, moving slowly along the asteroid belt, as if giving the Valith a clear opening to escape, but in truth they would guide the enemy toward an open region of space where a human task force waited hidden behind a cluster of moons. The trick was to make it look accidental, to make the Valith believe they still had the advantage. The engines of the human ship hummed to life, and the vessel began to drift away, turning its broadside to the enemy. As if unconcerned, the Valith sensors tracked them cautiously at first, but as the distance grew they began to follow, inching forward, their jagged hull scraping past floating rock. The chase was slow, deliberate, both sides pretending to be less alert than they were in reality. Mara sat forward in her chair, eyes locked on the tactical display. Though she knew it was her own vision that mattered more than any screen, she spotted the slight flickers, the bends of light that betrayed the movement of the Valith, even as their cloak tried to reactivate. The flare residue still clung stubbornly to their hull, giving away their presence to anyone who truly looked. She whispered quiet encouragement to her crew, reminding them to stay sharp and patient. An hour into the slow pursuit, they reached the edge of the asteroid belt. Ahead lay open black space and the faint glimmer of a distant moon. The bait was working. The Valith had taken the path she wanted, each minute drawing them closer to the point of no return. Her hidden allies waited beyond the moon, their ships cold and silent, to avoid detection, each armed with more of the flare weapons and energy traps designed to disable cloaking systems entirely. But the Valith were not foolish prey. As the human ship crossed into open space, they slowed again, perhaps sensing the trap, perhaps only cautious after their earlier humiliation. Mara could feel the tension rising. The plan would fail if they refused to follow. She ordered her ship to slow, as well, letting them think the humans were adjusting course toward a trade lane rich with targets. She ordered a few false broadcasts to simulate merchant chatter, hoping the alien ears would catch the scent of easy hunting. It worked slowly. The Valith ship crept forward again, their jagged hull glinting faintly against the void. The human crew kept their movement small and controlled every maneuver measured to avoid spooking the predator. They were leading by the nose. Finally, the two ships crossed the invisible line where the hidden human fleet could detect them fully. In an instant, the trap closed. Massive bursts of light and particle flares erupted from behind the moon, surrounding the Valith ship from every side. Their cloak collapsed completely, revealing their form. In brutal clarity, dozens of human ships emerged, weapons locked, but not firing. Instead, they held position, broadcasting the image of the once invisible hunter to every world in range. The Valith froze, realizing escape was impossible. The voice of Mara Vance rang across the comm channel, telling the alien captain that the hunt was over, that the age of invisible predators had ended, that every ship in the galaxy would now know what to look for. She offered them a choice: surrender and answer for their attacks, or fight and be destroyed before the eyes of countless watching worlds. The silence that followed stretched long enough for every human crew member to feel their heart pounding. Then, without warning, the Valith fired a single shot, not at the humans, but at a nearby asteroid, shattering it into a storm of spinning fragments. Using the chaos as cover, they tried to break away. Engines roaring to full power, the human fleet reacted instantly, ships moving to block their path, beams of light tracking across the black. The chase was on again, but now the whole galaxy was watching. And somewhere deep inside her, Mara Vance knew that the bait had worked better than she had dared to hope, because now the invisible threat was visible to all, and no amount of running would ever let it hide again. The chase stretched across the open void, human ships weaving to block the Valith at every turn, the black, jagged vessel darting between gaps with the speed of a cornered animal. Mara Vance kept her eyes locked on the faint gleam of their hull as her crew reported each move, every burst of engine fire, every shift in direction. The galaxy was still watching the live broadcast, carrying the hunt to worlds that had never even heard of the Valith until today. The alien ship twisted sharply, diving toward a thin cluster of rocks drifting from a shattered moon, hoping the uneven terrain would hide them. But the human vessels followed in perfect coordination, each captain adjusting by instinct and by trust in the others. They had trained for this moment. Even if they had not known it, the trap had been sprung, the predator forced into the open for the first time in living memory. Mara's comms officer signaled an incoming transmission. The source was the Valeth ship. The captain of the enemy had decided to speak. His voice came through low and distorted with a hiss between every word. He asked how they could see him, how they could track what no other species had ever tracked. His tone was not fear, but confusion and anger born from disbelief. Mara replied simply, the humans watched with more than machines, that they noticed what others ignored, that sometimes they just looked and saw what was there, even if it was not meant to be seen. The alien made no answer at first, perhaps weighing her words, perhaps deciding if they were a trick. Then he spoke again, asking if the humans intended to destroy them. Mara's reply was calm, measured. She told him that she wanted the attacks to stop, that she wanted the Valeth to answer for the vanished ships and the lost lives. She said that the galaxy had a right to know the truth, and that hiding would no longer protect them now that they were known. The Valeth ship slowed, not in surrender, but in hesitation, the jagged hull turning slightly, as if studying the human fleet. Mara knew they were deciding whether to fight or flee again. She also knew that if they fled now, they would try to vanish into the deep black beyond the rim, and perhaps no one would find them again. So she made a bold move, ordering her ship to cut directly across their path at close range, her vessel sliding in front of the alien bow, with its lights burning bright, flooding the enemy hull with glare that made every line of their shape stand out against the stars. The galaxy saw it all, the black carapace, like the armor of some ancient deep-sea beast, the sharp spines along its flanks, the strange ridge panels that shimmered faintly with trapped energy. The Valeth crew must have felt the eyes of millions upon them, for their ship twitched as if flinching under the light. Mara's voice came again over the comm, this time to every frequency, telling the watching worlds that this was the threat that had haunted their lanes and taken their people. She described how they had hidden using cloaking fields, and how simple light and human sight had broken their illusion. She invited any who wished to record the image and share it to do so, knowing it would spread faster than any official message. The Valeth captain responded with a sudden burst of power, engines flaring as the ship tried to ram through the blockade. Human ships shifted to intercept beams and bursts flashing through the dark. Without striking home, the alien vessel moved like a shadow, given life, slipping between lines. But the humans kept closing the net, forcing them back toward the largest human cruiser. In the moments before collision, Mara ordered her gunners to fire a second flare, this one tuned to emit a wide field of static that disrupted the alien sensors. The Valeth helm faltered their path, swerving enough for the human cruiser to lock tractor beams onto their hull. Energy streams wrapped around the jagged shape, holding it like chains in the void. The alien ship strained against them, engines howling, but the hold was too strong. Across the fleet, there was silence, as everyone realized the chase was over. The Predator caught alive. For the first time, the comm crackled again with the voice of the Valeth captain, now colder, sharper. He asked what humans would do with them. Mara's answer was simple. They would bring them to the council. They would face every world they had wronged. They would tell the galaxy why they had hunted unseen for so long. The alien made a low sound, almost like laughter, but without mirth. He said that the galaxy would not understand, that fear was the only language that worked in the void, and that without predators the weak would grow careless. Mara replied that perhaps that was true, but that humans had their own language, one that said predators could be hunted too. The Valeth fell silent again, and for a long moment, the only sound on the bridge was the steady hum of the tractor beams holding them. Then Mara gave the order to turn toward the nearest neutral station where the council could be called to witness. She knew the journey would not be easy. The Valeth would not accept humiliation quietly, and there was always the chance that others of their kind would come to free them. But the first contact had been made not in peace and not in war, but in the raw, undeniable truth of exposure, the moment when the unseen became seen, when a ghost became a shape, when the galaxy realized that there was no such thing as perfect invisibility, not when humans were watching. As the fleet began to move in formation, the stars drifted slowly past the viewports, each one a silent witness to the shift in power that had just occurred somewhere out there in the deep black. Other predators might be watching, thinking they were safe, but Mara Vance knew they would remember this day and know that there was one species that could find them no matter how well they hid. And for the first time since the vanishings began, the trade lanes ahead felt just a little less empty, just a little less haunted, though the crew of the human scout ship knew the true hunt was only beginning. The human fleet moved through the black void with the Valeth ship held tight in the tractor beams of the largest cruiser, every vessel flying in formation with engines running low and shields raised ready for anything. Mara Vance stood at the bridge window of her scout ship, watching the jagged alien hull glint under the cold starlight. She knew the Valeth were not done, yet a predator caught in a trap still had claws and teeth, and she expected them to use both before this journey was over. Inside the alien vessel, the Valeth crew worked in silence, each station alive with faint lights and shifting holograms. The captain's voice was a steady whisper of commands, telling his people to wait for the right moment to strike. The humans had captured them, but they had not broken their spirit. They had fought unseen for centuries, and the thought of surrender was poison to them. They were already planning their escape. The fleet passed the edge of a vast debris field, the remains of some ancient battle, long forgotten, twisted hulls and shattered plating drifting slowly around the faint light of a dying star. Mara had chosen this route on purpose. She knew the field would make it harder for reinforcements to reach them, and it gave her a perfect place to test her theory that the Valeth had allies close by. Her comm officer reported faint readings of the far edge of the debris, two small signatures moving slowly, as if they were part of the wreckage. Mara studied the pattern of their drift and saw it for what it was: controlled movement, deliberate and careful. She ordered a coded signal to the rest of the fleet to prepare for engagement without alerting the prisoners. The Valeth captain must have seen the same thing from his side, for his ship began to shift in the tractor beams, testing the strength of the hold. The human cruiser tightened the grip, sending a shudder through the alien hull. Mara kept her eyes on the movement in the debris field, waiting for them to make the first move. The tension on the bridge was so thick that every sound from the consoles felt louder than it should. Then it happened. Two more Valeth ships emerged from behind, drifting wreckage, their cloaks dropping for only a second as they powered weapons. The flash of light from their engines gave them away to human eyes long before the scanners could confirm. Mara shouted the order to spring the trap. In an instant, the human fleet shifted into a pre-planned pattern, ships breaking formation to reveal hidden launch bays. The cruisers unleashed swarms of small drones, each one carrying flare payloads and signal jammers. The drones scattered into the debris field, moving too fast for the Valeth reinforcements to target them in time. Explosions of light burst across the black, flooding the area with particle clouds that clung to every surface, revealing the outlines of the two new enemy ships in brutal detail. The galaxy was still watching the broadcast, and now the viewers saw not one, but three of the predators laid bare in the open. The myth of their invisibility shattered further with every passing second. The Valeth captain on the trapped ship roared something in his language, a sound of rage and defiance, as his allies opened fire on the human fleet, energy beams slicing through the dark with deadly precision. Human shields flared under the impact, but the fleet held strong, returning fire with measured bursts designed to cripple, not destroy. They wanted these ships alive, proof to show the Council and every citizen of the galaxy that the hunters were real and could be caught. Mara's scout ship darted between the larger vessels, weaving through the chaos to deliver another round of flares directly onto the lead reinforcement ship, its cloak collapsing completely as the light clung to its jagged form. The Valeth fought with the desperation of a cornered beast, but the trap was too well planned. Each escape route blocked by human ships, each attempt to hide ruined by the flare drones. Even the original prisoner ship could do nothing but twist and strain in the tractor beams, watching as its would-be saviors were stripped of their greatest weapon. The humans had taken the battlefield and turned it into a cage. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours as the fight raged in the debris field, chunks of ancient wreckage spinning away under the force of weapon blasts. But slowly the Valeth fire began to weaken. One of the reinforcements lost engines, crippled by a precision strike, another forced to divert power from weapons to shields. As the flares burned on its surface, the humans pressed their advantage, closing the noose tighter with every pass. Finally, Mara gave the order to disable the last of the enemy weapons. A coordinated volley from three human ships struck the reinforcement vessels in unison, knocking out their primary cannons and leaving them drifting powerless in the void. The battle was over. The trap had worked better than she had hoped. Three Valeth ships captured alive, three living answers to the mystery that had haunted the trade lanes for months. Across the galaxy, the broadcast showed the predators surrounded their black holes glowing faintly from flare residue, their once perfect invisibility gone replaced by the cold reality of defeat. Alien governments that had mocked human warnings now saw the truth with their own eyes, and whispers began to turn to serious talks of alliance. On the bridge of her scout ship, Mara allowed herself one deep breath. She knew the war with the Valith was far from over. She knew there were more of them hiding in the black, waiting for their chance to strike again. But she also knew that the galaxy had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. They could no longer pretend the invisible threat was a ghost story. They could no longer dismiss the human claim that even the best cloak could be broken. She looked once more at the jagged shapes caught in the tractor beams, their spines and ridges glistening under the floodlights, and she felt a grim satisfaction. Predators or not, they were prey now, and the galaxy would never forget the day the trap had sprung. The human ship kept moving through the darkness of space with its sensors wide open as every crew member held their breath, waiting for the next move from the invisible enemy. The strange signal had grown stronger, and it now pulsed like a heartbeat through the communication lines of the ship, as if the enemy was taunting them, daring them to follow deeper into the shadows. The alien ships that had been following from a distance now kept even farther back. They did not want to be too close when the enemy attacked again, because the memory of the destroyed convoy still burned in their minds. The human captain knew they were being watched from more than one side, and he whispered to his crew to stay sharp and to trust only what they could see with their own eyes. Suddenly, the faint shimmer of space rippled again, and something massive moved ahead of them. It was not a single ship, but a formation of ships moving in perfect silence, their shapes only visible for a second before melting back into the darkness. The crew leaned forward, straining their eyes, trying to follow the outline of the enemy vessels. The human scanners, however, did not lose sight. They kept locking onto the faint distortion patterns the invisible ships left behind. The captain sent a silent message to the alien observers telling them to keep their distance, but also to record everything they saw, because proof would be the only way to make the galaxy believe what humans were about to uncover. The alien observers hesitated, but followed the order as the human ship closed the distance, slowly, carefully, every second stretching longer than the last. Without warning, the space ahead of them exploded with movement. The invisible fleet broke formation and scattered, each ship darting in a different direction, trying to confuse their pursuers, but the human sensors tracked each one like a predator following prey. The captain ordered his crew to focus on the largest ship in the formation, believing it to be the command vessel that controlled the others. They moved at high speed, weaving between fragments of asteroid debris that floated like frozen giants in space, and each time the enemy tried to hide behind one, the human crew predicted their moves and adjusted course. The aliens, watching from behind, could not understand how the humans were seeing what they could not. To them, the black void remained empty, except for the human ship zigzagging like it was chasing ghosts. The invisible command vessel finally seemed to realize it could not lose its pursuer, and it began to change tactics. It slowed down and shifted position until it was directly facing the human ship. The crew felt the tension rise as the enemy stopped running and prepared to fight in the silence of space. The two ships floated in a deadly standoff, neither firing, yet both ready to strike. The captain spoke calmly to his crew, reminding them that fear was the enemy's weapon. If they hesitated, they would lose. He ordered the visual recorders to capture every detail of the enemy distortion, and then he gave the order to activate a new experimental device, one that sent out a high-energy pulse designed to disrupt cloaking fields across multiple wavelengths. The crew braced themselves as the device charged with a rising hum that filled every corner of the ship. When the pulse finally fired, the entire screen in front of them lit up in a storm of light. For a moment, the darkness of space vanished, and the invisible command vessel was revealed in full detail, its jagged hull covered in strange markings, its shape unlike any ship the crew had ever seen. The alien observers gasped through the comms, unable to believe what their eyes were telling them, because the ship was no longer a shadow. It was real and huge and terrifying. The enemy reacted instantly, turning hard and firing a volley of bright energy beams that sliced through the void. The human ship rolled sideways, narrowly avoiding the attack, and returning fire with precision shots aimed at the enemy's weapons. The alien observers could see every move now, and they began shouting over their channels, telling their governments that humans had done the impossible. They had exposed the ghost fleet. The battle raged on, with the human ship using agility and speed to stay just ahead of the enemy's fire. Each pulse from their device kept the invisible vessel exposed for longer, making it harder for the enemy to vanish again. The alien observers began transmitting the live feed to other ships, and soon half the galaxy was watching as humans fought an enemy no one else could even see. The enemy vessel began to break apart under the relentless strikes from the human weapons, and in one final desperate move it tried to ram the human ship. The captain ordered a sharp, evasive maneuver, bringing them so close to the enemy hull that they could see the strange, glowing symbols etched into its surface. Then, with a final shot aimed at the enemy's engines, the human ship sent the massive vessel spinning out of control until it vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only debris and a faint echo of its strange signal. Silence filled the ship as the crew realized they had won. The alien observers were already flooding the comms with praise and disbelief, their voices full of shock as they admitted that without humans the invisible fleet would have remained a myth. The captain looked at his crew and knew this was only the beginning, because if one invisible ship existed, there could be many more hiding in the galaxy, waiting for their chance to strike. And now the humans had a target painted on their backs. The crew sat in their stations, their eyes still scanning the stars for any hint of movement, and the captain quietly ordered the sensors to keep listening for that strange heartbeat signal, because somewhere out there the rest of the invisible threat was watching and waiting. The human ship floated in the silent void, its hull scarred from the last battle, yet every crew member was awake, alert, and ready for what came next. The alien observers had left hours ago, their recordings already spreading across the galaxy, changing the way every species saw humans now. But for the captain and his crew, there was no celebration. There was only the quiet knowledge that the fight was far from over, because the strange heartbeat signal had returned stronger than before, and this time it came from deep inside uncharted space where no maps existed and no living ship had ever returned from. The captain gathered the crew in the war room and spoke in a steady voice, telling them they had two choices. They could return to safe space and hand the information over to the Alliance, or they could follow the signal to its source and face whatever waited for them. He did not need to wait for their answers, because every face around the table told him the same thing: they were going in. The journey into the uncharted sector was like diving into the mouth of a giant predator. The stars grew fewer, the light dimmer, and the void around them began to feel thicker, as if it was resisting their movement. Their scanners showed faint blurs shifting in the darkness like shadows watching them from the edges of reality. Sometimes the crew thought they saw movement outside the windows, but when they looked again, there was nothing. The signal, meanwhile, kept growing louder, pulsing faster, as if excited for their arrival. After 3 days of silent travel, the ship emerged into a region unlike anything they had ever seen. Space itself seemed to ripple here, as though reality was bending and folding upon itself. Vast shapes moved far away, too large to be ships, too slow to be alive. The crew soon realized they were looking at structures, each one the size of a moon, suspended in the darkness, covered in black metal that seemed to drink in light. These were not just ships, they were the invisible fleet's home. The captain ordered all weapons ready, and the experimental pulse device charged. The crew knew this would not be a quick fight. If they were discovered, they would be surrounded in seconds. Yet the captain wanted proof before they attacked. He ordered the ship to approach one of the structures silently, using the gravitational pull of a nearby dead star to mask their movement. As they drifted closer, they saw openings in the surface of the black metal like massive hangar doors, and inside they caught glimpses of more invisible ships lined in perfect rows waiting. The crew began recording every image, every reading, every vibration from a massive station, but the signal they had been following suddenly shifted. It was no longer just a heartbeat now. It sounded like voices layered over one another, speaking in a strange rhythm that made the hairs on the crew's necks rise. The captain understood the truth. The invisible fleet already knew they were here, and they were calling for reinforcements. Without warning, the surface of the massive station came alive. Entire sections peeled open, revealing dozens of ships already cloaked and moving toward them, the captain gave the order to fire the pulse device, and a wave of energy burst from a human ship, rippling across the void. The cloaking fields around the enemy ships shattered in a cascade of light, and for a moment the crew saw the full scale of what they faced. There were hundreds of ships, each one different in shape, yet all built from the same black metal with glowing markings like the ones they had seen on the command vessel. The battle began. Instantly, beams of energy streaked through the void as the human ship twisted and rolled, dodging impossible odds and firing back with deadly accuracy. Each pulse they sent out kept more ships visible, making them easier targets. The captain knew they could not win a head-on fight, so he ordered a maneuver straight toward the station itself, weaving through enemy fire while charging the ship's reactor for an overload burst. The crew realized what he was planning. They were going to use the reactor burst not as a weapon to destroy the station, but as a blinding flare so bright and powerful would disrupt cloaking systems across the entire region. If they could pull it off, every hidden ship, every invisible station, every secret base of the fleet would be exposed at once. The aliens would have nowhere left to hide. They dived under the shadow of the massive structure, enemy ships swarming like angry insects all around them. The pulse device fired again and again until its coils glowed red. The captain gave the final order to release the reactor burst, and in that moment the ship became a sphere of light, exploding outward across the darkness, tearing through cloaking fields and flooding the void with brilliance. The crew watched in awe as the shadows vanished, the entire region now alive with the shapes of enemy vessels, stations, and strange constructs that had been hidden for decades. The fleet was massive, far larger than anyone had imagined, but now they were no longer invisible. Now every race in the galaxy could see them. Every allied ship racing to the scene would have targets. Every government would understand the danger. The overload had crippled the human ship, its systems flickering and life support running low. Yet the crew felt no fear, only pride. They had done the impossible twice in the span of days, and the captain knew their names would be remembered in every corner of space for as long as history was written. The enemy ships began to regroup, surrounding the damaged human vessel. But before they could fire, Allied reinforcements arrived, drawn by the massive energy burst. Entire squadrons of alien warships poured into the region, weapons ready, shields blazing. The human captain sent one last transmission to every ship in range, telling them to record what they saw, to share it with the galaxy, and to never forget that the enemy could only hide when the galaxy closed its eyes. Then he turned to his crew and ordered them to prepare for boarding, because even though the battle was far from over, this war had just shifted in their favor. The enemy had lost its shadow forever.